John Deere's latest announcement isn't about smarter tractors, it's about changing the relationship between farmers and the machines they depend on. As autonomous technology promises hands-free farming, a growing battle over repairs, software, and ownership raises a much bigger issue. These 7 new developments reveal how the future of agriculture may be shaped less by horsepower and more by who controls the technology after the sale, and trust me, it's not improving at all. John Deere just told farmers they never have to sit in the cab again. Climb out, pull out your phone, swipe right, and the tractor drives itself across the field. They are calling it the future of farming. And the same week they announced it, a federal judge ruled that John Deere has to face a government lawsuit accusing it of running a repair monopoly that has been bleeding those exact same farmers dry for a decade. So here is the question nobody at the CES stage in Las Vegas wanted you to ask. If John Deere will not even let you fix the tractor you already own, what exactly happens when that tractor drives itself, breaks down in the middle of harvest, and the only person on Earth allowed to turn it back on works at the dealership 40 miles away? Because this announcement is not really about autonomy, it is about control. And John Deere just figured out how to sell you a machine you will never actually own. Subscribe, because I break down every company that turns its own customers into the product. And trust me, Deere wrote the playbook. John Deere has a motto too: nothing runs like a deer. For 188 years, that line meant something simple. You bought the green machine, it never quit on you, and if it ever did, you fixed it yourself in the barn with a wrench and a manual. That promise built a company founded in 1837 into a $45 billion a year giant that sells more large tractors and combines in North America than its next 2 competitors, Case New Holland and Kubota combined. That is not a market leader. That is a near monopoly. And that same dominance is the exact thing that just turned this autonomy announcement into a trap. Because here is what Deere actually unveiled. At CES in January, they showed off a 2nd generation autonomy kit. 16 cameras bolted to the cab roof, giving the tractor a full 360-degree view of the field. You drive the machine out, set up the job, climb down, open an app, and swipe to farm. The tractor handles tillage on its own while you stand there watching a dashboard on your phone. By spring 2026, US Sugar in Florida was already running a fleet of these across roughly 255,000 acres, one of the largest real-world autonomous farming operations in North America. Deere's Chief Technology Officer Jami Hindman framed it as the obvious next step. Why do I have to be in the machine? Why can't I be doing something else? It sounds incredible, and it is. The engineering is genuinely impressive. 16 cameras running real-time machine vision, building a 360-degree picture of the field and the tillage tool dragging behind it, accurate enough to trust with a $500,000 machine and nobody in the seat. For the orchard and vineyard version Deere built off its Bear Flag Robotics acquisition, they even added LiDAR, because GPS struggles under 30-foot tree canopies, and the tractor has to navigate dense branches taller than itself. This is hard technology, and Deere did it well. But here is the detail everyone clapping in that auditorium missed. A swipe-to-farm tractor is the single most locked-down product John Deere has ever built. And to understand why that should terrify every farmer in America, you have to understand the war Deere has been fighting against its own customers for the last 10 years. It is called right to repair, and it is the ugliest open secret in agriculture. Somewhere over the last 2 decades, tractors stopped being machines and became computers with wheels. A modern John Deere combine runs on software. When something breaks, a sensor throws a code, and that code has to be cleared with a diagnostic tool before the machine will run again. Deere makes that tool. It is called Service Advisor. And for years, Deere gave the fully functional version to exactly one group of people on the planet: its own authorized dealers. Not farmers, not the independent mechanic down the road who has fixed equipment in that town for 30 years, just the dealers. So picture what that actually means on the ground. It is planting season. A farmer named Jared Wilson in Missouri has a narrow window, a few weeks, to get his corn and soybeans in the ground. Get it wrong and the whole year's yield takes a hit. His John Deere combine throws a code and shuts down. He cannot fix it. The local shop cannot fix it. He has to call the dealer, wait for a technician who might be booked solid because every other farmer in the county is in the same window, and pay whatever the dealer charges. Wilson told NBC News that broken down Deere equipment has cost him hundreds of thousands of dollars over the years. Not because the repairs were hard, because he was locked out of doing them. Think about that for a second. You own the tractor. You paid $500,000 for the tractor, and you are not allowed to fix the tractor. And it goes deeper than just the diagnostic tool. Once Deere has you in the dealership door, the FTC's complaint lays out what comes next. The dealer can sell you parts that are functionally identical to cheaper generic versions, but priced higher because you have nowhere else to turn. Deere does technically offer a second version of its repair software to farmers and independent shops, but the government argues that version is deliberately crippled, inferior to the dealer tool, and incapable of performing the full range of repairs. So even the access Deere pointed to as proof it played fair was a hollow version of the real thing. Deere acknowledged two tools exist. It just denied one was worse than the other. The judge did not buy it. This was not an accident. This was the business model. A 2023 study by the U.S. Public Interest Research Group estimated that American farmers could save as much as $1.2 billion a year if manufacturers like Deere just stopped imposing these repair restrictions. That is over $1 billion a year flowing out of farmers' pockets and into a repair monopoly. And when farmers started organizing, when the National Farmers Union filed formal complaints, Deere did what every company in this series eventually does. It made a promise it had no intention of keeping. In January 2023, Deere signed a Memorandum of Understanding with the American Farm Bureau Federation. On paper, Deere pledged to give farmers and independent mechanics the same tools and software it gives dealers. Sounds like a win. Read the fine print. In exchange, the Farm Bureau agreed to stop supporting right-to-repair legislation. There was no enforcement mechanism, and Deere could walk away from the entire deal with 30 days' notice. So it was not a fix. It was a trade. Deere bought political cover by promising access it never actually had to deliver. And in return, the largest farm lobby in the country agreed to stop pushing for the laws that would have forced it to. That is the whole move. That is the whole Deere playbook in one paragraph. When customers complain, do not solve the problem. Sign something that makes the complaint go away while changing nothing. And it worked, right up until the government stopped playing along. In January 2025, in the final days of the Biden administration, the Federal Trade Commission, joined by the Attorneys General of Illinois and Minnesota, sued John Deere directly. The complaint was blunt. It accused Deere of unlawfully acquiring and maintaining monopoly power over the repair market for its own equipment. The Federal Trade Commission pointed straight at Service Advisor, arguing that by keeping the fully functional tool away from farmers, Deere drove up repair costs, forced farmers into dealers during the most time-sensitive weeks of the year, and pulled in what the complaint called massive profits for Deere and its dealer network. Deere's response was exactly what you would expect. The claims are baseless. We did nothing wrong. They filed to dismiss. And in June 2025, a federal judge said no. Judge Ian Johnston issued a 27-page order finding the allegations strong enough to go to trial. He quoted the core of the government's case in his own ruling. Farmers have no alternatives because of the system Deere built, a system that lets it charge prices it could never charge if real competition existed. The case is headed for trial. Deere is now legally on the hook to defend a repair monopoly in open court. And here is where it gets interesting, because Deere clearly saw the wall coming. In April 2026, just months after losing the motion to dismiss, Deere agreed to pay $99 million to settle a separate class action lawsuit, a 2022 case brought by farmers themselves. $99 million. That sounds like a reckoning until you do the math. Spread across the 8 years and the acreage the lawsuit covered, repair advocates calculated it came out to roughly 79 cents per acre. 79 cents. For a decade of being locked out of your own equipment. And true to form, Deere admitted no wrongdoing. The official statement said the settlement brought the case to an end with no finding of fault. As part of the deal, Deere agreed to make repair tools available to farmers and independent shops for 10 years, which, if you are paying attention, is Deere finally agreeing to do the exact thing it pretended to agree to back in 2023 with the Farm Bureau handshake that it never honored. Same promise. Third time. Only this time, a court is watching. So now, hold that entire history in your head. The locked software, the broken promises, the monopoly the government is dragging into court, and walk back to that stage at CES where Deere announced the self-driving tractor. Because now you can see what the announcement actually is. A traditional tractor with a software lock is bad enough. You at least still steer it. You are still in the seat. The autonomous tractor removes the last thing the farmer controlled. Now the machine drives itself, navigates itself, and reports its status through Deere's app, on Deere's servers, using Deere's perception system, cleared by Deere's diagnostic tools. Every layer of that stack is owned by the one company with a documented decade-long habit of using exactly that kind of control to charge whatever it wants. The autonomy kit is retrofittable, available on 8R, 9R, and 9RX tractors, and 2017 and newer tillage tools, and Hindman pitched that as a gift, a way for farmers to ease into the technology slowly. But retrofit also means this. Deere is reaching back into machines farmers already own and adding a layer of dependence that did not exist when they bought them. And I am not saying autonomy is a bad idea. One operator supervising multiple machines during a labor shortage is genuinely useful. The technology solves a real problem, but maybe the motivation matters. This is not a company that earned your trust on control and is now extending it. This is a company that spent 10 years getting sued over control, and its answer was to build a product that needs even more of it. Now here is the part where it stops being a story about software and starts being a story about people. Because while Deere was building the lockdown future, it was quietly dismantling the American present. Starting in 2023 and accelerating hard through 2024 and 2025, John Deere laid off wave after wave of its own factory workers across Iowa and Illinois. 250 jobs in Illinois in 2023, 650 in Iowa in 2024, another roughly 610 across East Moline, Davenport, and Dubuque by that summer. By the end of 2024, Investigate Midwest tallied 2,167 jobs cut across Deere's Iowa and Illinois facilities in that year alone. The layoffs rolled into 2025 with hundreds more, and at the same time it was telling Iowans their jobs no longer existed, Deere confirmed it was building a new plant in Ramos, Mexico, and shifting production of equipment like skid steers and track loaders there by the end of 2026. Deere's explanation was a weak farm economy and falling demand. And there is truth in that. U.S. net farm income fell roughly 27% in 2024 as corn and soybean prices dropped and input costs stayed high. Farmers were buying fewer tractors. That is real. But the workers did not buy the explanation. United Auto Workers, local 838's president, demanded Deere bring the outsourced jobs back, and the union called the cuts an insult to the working class people of Iowa and Illinois. One worker put it more simply to The Guardian. The only reason for Deere to do this, he said, is greed. And he had a number to back it up. In 2023, the year before the layoffs really hit, Deere posted over $10 billion in profit, and CEO John May took home $26.7 million in total compensation. $10 billion in profit. A CEO making nearly $27 million. And the line workers in Waterloo and Dubuque are the ones told to clear out their lockers. And it was not just the factory workers caught underneath this. The farmers themselves were drowning. In April 2026, the same month Deere settled its repair case, Chapter 12 farm bankruptcies, the kind specifically built for family farms, spiked to 62 filings in a single month. That was a 130% jump over the year before, and the highest monthly total since early 2020. So picture the full board. Farmers going under at the fastest rate in years, factory towns gutted by layoffs, and the company at the center of all of it posting billions in profit and unveiling a self-driving tractor on a stage in Las Vegas. The people building the machines and the people buying the machines were both being crushed at the same time by the same company in the same year. You have heard this exact story before in this series. A company at the top of its game, making enormous money, deciding the people who actually build the product are the line item to cut. It is never the strategy that pays. It is never the executive suite. It is the factory floor. And the numbers tell you the squeeze was not even about survival. Yes, fiscal 2025 was rough. Deere's worldwide net sales fell 12% to $45.7 billion, and net income dropped 29% to roughly $5 billion. Tariffs alone cost the company about $600 million for the year and are projected to keep biting in 2026. Large agriculture sales got hammered, down more than 20% in some quarters. CEO John May called 2025 a year of challenges and uncertainty, and told investors he believes 2026 will mark the bottom of the cycle. But here's the thing, even in its worst year in recent memory, Deere still made $5 billion in profit. This was never a company fighting to survive. This was a company protecting a margin. And the autonomy announcement, the self-driving tractor, the swipe to farm future, is the long game that protects that margin no matter what corn prices do. Because a farmer who buys an autonomous Deere is not buying a tractor anymore. He is buying a subscription to Deere's ecosystem, locked in at every level, dependent on Deere's software for the rest of that machine's life. Hardware sales rise and fall with the farm economy. Control does not. Control is forever. And if you think locking customers into your ecosystem and squeezing them through the parts and service they cannot escape is some new idea Deere just stumbled into, you would be wrong. This is the oldest play in the company's book. For generations, the real money in farm equipment was never just the machine. It was everything after the sale, the parts, the service, the financing through John Deere Financial, the dealer relationship that lasted decades. Deere built one of the most loyal customer bases in American industry precisely because that whole system worked and farmers trusted it. The tragedy is that Deere looked at that trust, that lifelong relationship, and saw not something to protect, but something to monetize harder. The software lock was just the old parts and service empire upgraded for the computer age. The autonomy kit is that same empire upgraded again. Same company, same instinct. 3 different decades, 3 different technologies, one unchanging idea. Own the customer, not just the sale. The wrench in the barn promise was Deere telling farmers the machine is yours, fix it yourself. The software lock was Deere quietly taking that back. The repair monopoly was Deere getting caught taking it back. And the self-driving tractor is Deere making sure that even after a $99 million settlement and a federal lawsuit, even after promising access for the 3rd time, it holds the one thing that actually matters, the off switch. Because that is what it always comes down to. When that autonomous 8R is sitting dead in a field at the worst possible moment, in the narrow window that decides the whole year's harvest, the question is not whether the technology works. The question is, who is allowed to turn it back on? And John Deere has spent 10 years, 2 lawsuits, 1 broken handshake, and 2,000 laid-off workers making absolutely sure the answer is never going to be you. John Deere's autonomy rollout is scheduled to expand across the US through 2026. The FTC's repair monopoly case is heading toward a trial that could reshape the entire industry, and the company's next earnings report is due in the months ahead. Whatever comes out of Moline next, the new machines, the next round of cuts, the verdict, I will be here with the numbers. Subscribe so you do not miss it. Found this helpful? Subscribe and join us for another deep dive soon.